Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bald Guy Money. I am Bald Guy, and on Friday night, as I was asleep and markets had already closed, there was a major attack on Russian civilians within the borders of Russia. And this video is not being made to speculate on who is responsible or to disrespect the innocent people who lost their lives. This video is about recognizing the fact that this is a major escalation in one of a few major conflicts that is driving worry and concern on the geopolitical stage, and exactly how this is going to impact the financial markets when they open up on Monday morning, which will be late Sunday night in the United States for my American viewers when the Asian markets open for business. So, in this video, we will cover what I expect to happen to the price of gold and silver on Monday morning when markets open. Then we'll discuss how this impacts the current upward trends we're seeing in the prices of metals, including the potential for pullbacks. And just before we get to this video's viewer question, I will tell you all what I am doing right now in reaction to this event as it relates to gold and silver in my portfolio. And this is very important for each and every one of you who is currently building a precious metals portfolio to watch. So make sure to watch the entirety of this video, please. Now, just before we get into it, if you want to buy gold and silver at a great price from a fantastic dealer, please check out channel partner Pimbex. They have these quarter-ounce American Eagles for only $611.51 per piece, which are cheaper than all the four leading dealers I checked this weekend. And these coins are a great start for any stacker on a budget who has been watching my videos and thinks it's time to start bulking up on gold. So I will leave the link to this deal in the video description below. And remember, if you're interested in putting even just a small fraction of your retirement fund into a gold or silver IRA, call them at the number on the screen for a free consultation. Just be sure to let them know you came from Bald Guy Money. Okay, so let's get right into this because, as I said, this is a big escalation. A major event within the Russian borders that adds yet another significant layer to the poop show that is the geopolitical crisis we seem to be going through right now. And yes, I am leaving a few important things out on this pyramid, but when it comes to major events we can point to that have tangibly pushed the price of metals up, specifically gold, these are the big ones. And when it comes to two of them, those being the invasion of Ukraine by Russia and the Israel-Gaza conflict, we can point to specific dates and see the immediate reaction in the prices of gold and silver to these events. And I want to do that right now, and let's start with gold. So the first event we're looking at here is at the Russian invasion of Ukraine, where gold went from $1,889 per ounce all the way up to $2,070 per ounce before having a slight pullback and settling in at a closing price of $1,988 for the week of March 7th, 2022, which was a couple weeks after the beginning of the invasion. That left gold up by 5.2% before it retraced down to the 2022 lows of $1,650 per ounce as the US dollar experienced a major rise in comparison to other foreign currencies as measured on the DXY-Dixie index, which was driven by the US Federal Reserve starting its interest rate hiking cycle. And remember that bit because we're going to revisit that in a moment. Now we're just kind of establishing what happened after these events. So now I want to move on to the second important event we can stick a date to from our pyramid. We have the start of the whole Israel and Gaza conflict, which started on a weekend, much like what just happened in Russia, with the markets having closed at $1,832 an ounce on October 6th, 2023. Just before the price of gold zoomed off once the markets reopened to over $2,000 an ounce, an increase in price of 9.7% in US dollar terms over a period of just a couple weeks. A price level, by the way, that has held up pretty well over the past 5 or 6 months as we've gone on to see new nominal record highs and as we've put in a pretty solid price floor at the $2,000 per ounce level, which I've covered in recent videos. Now, this is being driven, obviously, as I've also covered in recent videos, by central banks as they continue to hedge themselves against both the geopolitical poop show as well as the US dollar poop show and the US dollar spending poop show that we're seeing happening right now. So, knowing this, what can we predict or in the least assume will happen to gold when the markets open up on Monday morning, Sunday night for my American viewers? Well, the first thing is that the price of gold should rise. Okay, we've demonstrated that in those two prior situations, the price of gold rose. As the markets predictably were looking for and will seek safety in gold due to the uncertainty resulting from what's just happened. Okay? Now, the second thing is, and I said we would circle back to this point, is that we should not expect a significant pullback in price like we saw in 2022. And that's because the US Federal Reserve is not going to start another interest rate hiking cycle. In fact, as I talked about last week, the opposite is true. And Jerome Powell told us so much in his speech this past week. Their next move is to decrease interest rates, which will make US Treasuries a less attractive safe haven versus gold, making a reaction like what we saw in October of last year a more likely scenario than the one we saw play out in 2022. And finally, moving on to point 3. And I know this sounds crazy, but we could, and I emphasize the word could, see gold get up to $2,300 an ounce as a result of this, and here's why. If we take the average increase from the last two major geopolitical events that have taken place, that resulted in a big pump in the price of gold, we see that it gives us an average increase of 7.45% increase in the price of gold. And measuring from where we are today, when we apply that average gain, that gives us a price target of nearly $2,326 per troy ounce on gold. Now, does that mean I am convinced we will get exactly there in the next 2 weeks? Not necessarily. As always, I like to be conservative in the price targets I share here on the channel. I prefer to underpromise and overdeliver, but I do expect to see gold get above $2,200 an ounce and hold that level as it is in line with the trend we are seeing in gold right now and isn't seriously threatened. That trend isn't seriously threatened by an interest rate hiking cycle like what we saw back in 2022 after the outbreak of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. So, now that gold is out of the way, let's do the same analysis for silver, and here you can see the 5-year price chart for silver marking the same moments in time and how the price of silver also positively reacted to these events, with silver moving up 6.6% in early 2022 and 6.9% in October of last year. And you will notice that silver took a dip in 2022 along with gold during the US Federal Reserve interest rate hiking cycle, something we have already established isn't going to happen this time around. And the main difference between this chart and the one we looked at on gold is that although we're starting to see positive movement on the price of silver, we are starting to see some momentum to the upside. We have not seen sustained moves to the upside like we saw in the price of gold immediately following events like this. And coming back to a point I touched on in my last video, this is at least in part driven by the fact that silver plays a smaller role in hedging against geopolitical uncertainty than gold does, especially for central banks who for the most part do not stack silver. Now, considering all of this information, what does that mean for the price of silver when markets open on Monday morning? Well, it means that I see the price rising, just as I see it rising for gold. I also don't predict we'll see a 2022 style pullback after the rise like we saw in 2022. Likely we're going to put in a price floor right around the price we're at today as we start to move up. Now, although I think the price could go as high as $26.32 over the short term, and here are the calculations of how I got that, I do not think this event is going to be a major catalyst for the price of silver moving up in the same way that it will be for the price of gold. And for that reason, and what I wanted to communicate to you all in this video is that I am biting the bullet right now. I am using my dollar cost average budget to buy gold this weekend, even though I was waiting for slightly lower prices around the $2,080 per ounce level, and all my patrons will already be aware of that price level. Now, why I'm doing this before the markets open on Monday is in anticipation of what I think is going to happen once the markets open. And I am not going to buy silver. I am going to focus the entirety of my budget on buying gold. And for those of you holding mining stock positions, I will add this. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why I'm using this opportunity this weekend also to pounce on gold. So, this is not something I typically do on YouTube. It's usually something I cover exclusively on Patreon, but I will dig a bit deeper into this on Patreon in the coming week. But what I anticipate this week for the mining stocks is to see a continued bounce in the value of those stocks, just like we saw after those two major geopolitical events I covered for gold and silver. And small pumps on the GDX, which is the ETF for large mining companies, which followed those events, are marked here with the black arrows on the screen. And what I can say is why I'm jumping on this opportunity for gold this weekend while the markets are closed is because I can jump on that opportunity. There are still bullion dealers like Pimbex.com that are selling gold at the price that the market closed at on Friday, which is definitely not going to be the price that the market opens at on Monday. And, it's just a shame that we can't buy some of the mining stocks while the markets are closed, unless you're trading, of course, on the OTC market. But thankfully, we can buy, again, as I said, silver and gold. And if you agree with the logic I've presented here in this video and you decide to make a silver or gold purchase, again, I just want to remind you, please check out channel partner Pimbex at pimbex.com to see what they have and just how good their prices are. And if you enjoyed this video, and before we get to the viewer question, I just want to say, because we still have more coming. If you enjoyed this video and what I'm presenting here, please leave a like now and remember to subscribe to my channel because that kind of stuff makes noise for the algorithm to get this message out to other people and to get this message out to people who might not have heard it if you did not, for example, leave a like, share the content, comment, make all that noise for the algorithm. It's very important, and I want to thank all of you who are helping do that every video I make because we are growing here at Bald Guy Money, and your engagement with these videos is absolutely driving that growth. So now, moving on to this video's viewer question, and I answer one of these in every video I do. All you have to do is leave your question in the comments section below to enter it for consideration in a future video. And this week's question comes from a viewer named John Faruzzi. He asks, does jewelry count towards a person's gold and silver accumulation? And that's a great question that I get from time to time. And I want to say that what makes metals like gold and silver precious, it is not the form that they come in, but the actual properties that the metals have themselves. That's why we say gold and silver has intrinsic value. These are the properties that have resulted in humans valuing gold and silver for thousands of years now. So yes, your gold and silver jewelry absolutely count towards your stack, but I want to use this as an opportunity to say that when it comes to getting the most bang for your buck, stacking the most gold and silver per dollar or euro or whatever currency it is you earn in, the best way to go is always bullion, coins, and bars. So for me, jewelry is a bit of a treat that I get myself from time to time. And many of you have seen, yeah, I wear gold jewelry, sure I do. But when it comes to getting the full value out of the metals I'm buying that I'm putting in when I buy them, I focus exclusively on coins and bars because jewelry comes with high premiums and can, for the most part, only be sold back at melt value. And I've done a video on how to calculate the melt value of your jewelry, so you can go back and watch that if you want to understand more about why I see gold as a luxury as opposed to a vehicle for investing or stacking. With that said, that's it for this video. Remember, if you want more Bald Guy content that comes in between my weekend videos, please consider joining my Patreon. It only costs $9.99 a month. It's a great value. You get a lot of additional Bald Guy content there. On top of my stacking tools, you get videos, you get a weekly newsletter, as well as my price targets for purchasing gold and silver. So I really encourage everybody out there who wants to further support this channel to join me on Patreon, and join me also in our Patreon exclusive Discord chat group where I'm active every single day, talking to everybody, sharing some of my thoughts, and even joking around and sharing some memes. So with that said, again, everybody, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Until the next time we see each other, everybody, goodbye.